Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Business Talks. I am your host, Chawanne Burns. In today's episode, we are going to discuss the Flint water crisis. Since 2014, it was revealed the Flint water was contaminated because of the infrastructure, the lead piping, and they were, I guess, providing water from the Flint River, which was contaminated. And that was exposed in 2014, and yet it is 2024. They have just celebrated. I don't know if you want to call it a celebration, but it's marked the 10-year anniversary of this Flint water crisis. And you would not believe that the residents of Flint have not received any justice from the government. Okay, so we'll discuss that more today on today's episode of Business Talks.
Something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. Something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad.
You guys put in the chat, let me know where you're viewing from. Put in the chat, let me know where you are viewing from. Let's see who we have in the building. We have Noble Young in the building, and my mom is online, Shepherdess Suzanne. Thank you all for tuning in once again. So yes, Flint water crisis. It is a horrible thing, and I don't know why enough people are not talking about this or covering this issue, but it came to me via email, via one of my subscribers. She started sending me some information. She was like, "Hey, Chawanne, you have to cover the Flint water crisis," and so that's what we're going to do tonight. And later on, we're going to keep on talking about it until, some other people start talking about it, because I think it's disgusting that the people of Flint have not received any type of reparations, and people are dying because of this crisis, dying from cancer, dying from a Legionnaire disease. Things that you don't think that you will pass away from, because hey, we're in the modern times. We shouldn't be going through this same thing, but because of the piping and the infrastructure is contaminated, that's what they're going through in crisis. It's just like a whole city was left behind. Anyway, let me share this news report from, I believe this is NBC News. They had a video or a news report. So let me just share this. Okay. So this is Lester Holt talking about the Flint water crisis, and is saying Flint, Michigan is still fighting for safe water after 10 years after start of the crisis. And they still are fighting to get clean water.
Of America's tap water under a microscope, it was the iconic shot. April 25th, 2014, politicians in Flint, Michigan pushed a button switching the city's drinking water source from Detroit's system to the Flint River, later admitting their critical failure to treat that river water, causing it to corrode lead pipes and poison people.
We turn now to a growing crisis in Flint, Michigan over the city's water supply.
In the years that followed, Flint became famous for images of murky tap water and cases of contamination, many in children. This week, 10 years later, Melissa Mays says Flint still isn't fully fixed.
If you had to use one word to sum up the fight over the last 10 years, what would it be?
Exhausting. It is exhausting because Flint residents have never been off the front lines of the fight.
The married mom of 3, who still uses bottled water for all drinking and cooking, is a plaintiff in one of multiple lawsuits brought against the city, state, and several current and former officials, suits that have produced major settlements. In 2017, a federal judge demanded the city remove all lead service lines leading into homes and replace them with modern, safe ones, then repair damage done by that work to yards and homes. The deadline, 2020. Tonight, 4 years past that deadline, court filings show out of close to 30,000 addresses, Flint's replaced lines at all but 31, with hundreds more declining the service. Mays says advocates have done their own outreach and argues the city is even further behind than they claim.
So they talk about how many people, homes have been excavated, but not restored. And there's thousands.
A judge last month holding Flint in contempt, writing the city has failed to abide by the court's orders in several respects, adding it has no good reason for its failures. Flint's current mayor, Sheldon Neely, who took office in 2019 and is not a named defendant in the lawsuit, says he wanted the work finished long ago.
And for people sitting at home and they're just thinking, 10 years later, how is Flint not fixed? What is the answer to that?
No, we work it every single day, and everything doesn't happen overnight. Starting out with one engineering firm and then another engineering firm and then another engineering firm. And some of that information had not been transferred to each engineering firm based upon contracts, based upon whatever reasoning.
On top of bureaucratic delays, the mayor says repairs.
I call that a bunch of BS. Okay, you have 10 years to fix the infrastructure. Okay. We don't have the information where they left off at. I'm an engineer, and one of the things that I worked on as an engineer is piping. Okay. All you have to do, we don't know where they left off at. Okay, get a contractor company and make a camera piping to see where the piping ends. That's to me, this is a bunch of BS. Okay, it is not rocket science. Okay, I don't know where the contamination ends. I don't know where it begins. Okay. We're going to start here. We're going to run our water through and test it at this point. Then we're going to test it at this point. It's not rocket science. 10 years is way too long to repipe a city. Way too long. And especially if you have the money to do it. But you refuse. You're refusing to do it.
Stopped during the pandemic. He denies Mays' claim that the city has thousands more homes to reach or repair, but says anyone who hasn't gotten lines replaced should contact the city.
We have roughly about 1,900 structures where we didn't get consent to be able to get into those structures.
Do people have a right to be furious about the delay?
Yes, absolutely.
The mayor, meanwhile, championing the $146 million in infrastructure upgrades to treat the city's water, which now comes from Lake Huron.
We're also replacing poisonous lead pipes that go into 10 million homes in America, 400,000 school and child care centers.
In Flint's wake, drinking water has become a national priority, with President Biden's infrastructure law setting aside $15 billion toward lead pipe replacement nationwide. Meanwhile, Melissa Mays says the untreated water also corroded their homes' pipes, which the government is not paying to replace. She says many residents don't trust their tap.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear it looks fine.
Yeah. And the problem is that we don't know what's in this because lead and other dangerous contaminants and neurotoxins have no color, taste, or odor.
As for her kids, all 3, including 19-year-old Cole, have permanent health problems like compromised immune systems, as well as damaged kidneys and growth plates.
Flint is not getting fixed. 2016, everybody stood up for us and fought for Flint. We need that again, because without that external pressure, it's going to be another 10 years, and then another, and another, and it's terrifying.
Maggie Vespa is back from that reporting trip and joining us now. Maggie, thank you for bringing us that story. I have a question for you on one part of this, which is that $500 million settlement, right? Money from these lawsuits, basically, that this money that's supposed to help people in Flint. Have they actually seen any of it yet?
They haven't seen a dime of that money yet, Hallie. And that settlement, as you know, was historic, $626 million. And that settlement came out in 2021. So 3+ years later, the mayor says, OK, here's the deal. The holdup is effectively that the federal government, or a federal judge, excuse me, is trying to figure out how much money each household should get. Like, how much should a household?
That's a bunch of BS, too. It's a bunch of BS. First-hand knowledge. I'm contacting residents that's been a part of that class action lawsuit, and they specifically told me they're just going through to see how they could disqualify people from sending them any money. Some of the people that were part of that settlement have passed away. They're dead because of the water crisis. I had one client, or not client, but source told me that and she's the one who brought me the story, her uncle was disqualified from the settlement because he failed to, the type of disease that he have, it doesn't qualify. It is not in the descriptor. And he has cancer, a form of cancer, but you never guess where the cancer is at. He has cancer in his butt. Anal cancer. So you tell me this particular cancer that nobody in the world ever gets isn't caused by this water or infrastructure that you guys failed to replace. You actually poison these people, and none of these people have received any type of justice. Most of these people are literally going bankrupt because of the medical bills that they incurred because of this water crisis. And $626 million is not a lot for, I believe, Flint is the largest city in Genesee County. Back in 2014, I believe they had about 175,000 residents at the time. So that's not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money. You could rack up millions of dollars in medical bills, and you're talking about over 100,000 residents. This is really ridiculous.
With one adult get versus, say, a household of a family of 5 with like 3 little kids who were impacted by this. He says he expects that process, latest update, was to wrap in June and the money to be dispersed hopefully soon after that. So we'll be tracking that, of course. In the meantime, experts with the NRDC, the National Resources Defense Council, who have been following this closely, advocate for every American to get a water filter that removes lead because they say, as this crisis pointed out, Flint's problem is actually America's problem. Hallie.
Maggie Vespa, thank you very much for bringing us tonight's original.
So, yeah.
Breaking tonight out of Arizona.
It is an American problem because I hear they got lead piping throughout the United States. But how can one town, you got all these sick people, and they completely covered this whole thing up. There have been no one in Rick Snyder, because Rick Snyder was the governor at the time. No one's been charged criminally. They were trying to charge a RICO charge with Rick Snyder because they found out he knew about this whole crisis and he decided to cover it up. Some of the people at the plant, the water plant, saying, hey, this is not, we need to do X, Y, and Z to treat this water. And we can't, they switched the water from Detroit Water Service to Flint water, which was contaminated. Hey, we need to treat this water. And is showing high lead count, high other toxins, and they decided to cover it up. All the emails they decided to cover up. Let me just share this one post with you. Dana Nessel. I don't know if you guys are in Michigan, but Dana Nessel, she's our district attorney here. Okay. She's saying that since they can't charge anybody, they're just going to stop pursuing. But the problem is Dana Nessel, you guys, I'm on a podcast. I end up joining Jon Snow is Flint After Dark podcast. I'll share it on my YouTube channel, but he's mainly on Facebook. But you can follow him on YouTube, but he's supposed to drop that podcast tomorrow at 6 p.m. But anywho, he was telling me that Dana Nessel and Kim Worthy, these are district attorneys that are in Flint, okay, or in Michigan. Kim Worthy is literally for Detroit. She prosecute a lot of people in Detroit. Matter of fact, she prosecuted Kwame Kilpatrick. Dana Nessel, she ran on, hey, Bill Schuette, which was the other prosecutor, the other DA, she unseated him. Bill Schuette is going about it all wrong. You need to, he's using the money wrong. This is how you need to go after these people to prosecute these people for the Flint water crisis. When she got in, she got rid of all his investigating team. He hired an outside legal team to prosecute Rick Snyder and the people at the water company. They had substantial evidence, but she got rid of them. She fired them all, put some new attorneys in. I forget what the names were, but new attorneys that don't have any prosecuting experience. And they pretty much botched all the trials because they didn't have any experience in the courtroom. So Dana Nessel is saying she just came out and said, hey, we can't no longer prosecute these people. She decided this on not last Tuesday. It was a few months ago. So let me just share this article with you. It says, it appears no additional public officials will be held criminally responsible for the Flint water crisis. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel office said on Tuesday it has ended its quest to prosecute public officials for the role in the crisis. She just going to give up on the 100,000 residents that need justice. Somebody has to answer for it. Shortly after the Supreme Court shot down the effort to charge former Governor Rick Snyder. At this time, the court has left us with no option but to consider that the Flint water prosecution close. Read the statement from the prosecution team appointed by Dana Nessel, or read the prosecution. It says the team led by Wayne County prosecutor Kim Worthy and Chief Deputy Attorney General Fuad Hamoud promised to release full and thorough report to the public in months to come, detailing the efforts and decisions of the state prosecution. That report is expected next year. News that nobody will be prosecuted left Alan Overton, pastor of Flint Christ Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church, dejected but unsurprised. It says injustice in the community has been the norm. This just continues to show us that the legal system that we call justice is not really justice at all. Flint, let me just give you the demographics. Flint is predominantly a Black neighborhood or a Black city. But that, I don't think that's it. I think it's just social economical, what Flint is suffering from. They just don't like poor people. Okay. I believe Flint is probably maybe 80% Black. Oh, I stand corrected. I was totally wrong. Let me see. Okay. It is 35% white and 60% Black. I don't know where this 33%, not Hispanic or Latino, white alone. Oh, I don't know where they're getting this percentage from. But anyway, it's 60% Black. So I don't think I could attribute, okay, we could say it's a Black thing or white thing. I think it's just a social economical thing, because the average income or the average median household is 43,000. $43,000. The average household value is about 40 grand. So you have no, median household income is 35,000. Stand corrected. 35,000. So you got lower class people in Flint. So do they really care about these people? They know they predominantly vote Democrat. They can just gonna keep on voting Democrat anyway. So they don't care. These are forgotten people. They don't give a shit about them. And so you have 10 years of people being poisoned and no one's talking about it. It's like, oh, well, it takes time. I mean, you had 10 damn years. How long are you going to take? 10 years. 10 years. And you couldn't fix the infrastructure. Now, this is former Flint Mayor Karen Weaver reflects on the Flint water crisis. Now, she inherited the crisis. Some other guy was in there prior to her getting into the office. But I hear that she was doing an excellent job fixing the piping and all that stuff until I guess they didn't like the number what she said they think the residents deserve. She put out a $1 billion number, and they was like, oh, we got to get rid of your ass because you want to give the residents too much money. So they got rid of her. She was elected one term. I believe she was one-term mayor, and I hear that she was really trying to
grab a can of great
for the people and
stuff construction adhesive. One can delivers the yield of 8 tubes of adhesive.
In 2014, Flint made the switch to the Flint River for its drinking water.
Then in 2015, Karen Weaver, elected mayor of the city, tasked with helping the people of Flint recover from the water crisis.
This morning, we have been hearing from some of the key figures in the crisis, and we're going to send it right back to Flint this morning.
Yeah, because TV5's Lauren Piesco is joined live by former mayor Karen Weaver. Lauren. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, we have a very special guest joining us this morning, former Flint Mayor Karen Weaver. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Here we are.
We are 10 years since the start of the Flint water crisis, and for many people, it never ended. Many are still dealing with the impacts from lead-contaminated water. Many homes are still without clean drinking water. As we reflect back on the start of the crisis 10 years later, what are some things you want to say to those families who are still struggling right now?
You know what, we've been talking about this, and families are still struggling, and that's one of the problems. That's one of the issues that we are still dealing with and should not be dealing with, because people should have access to clean water. It's been 10 years, and for pipes not to be completed, for in-home plumbing fixtures, appliances not to be addressed, people are struggling. They're struggling physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, and that's what's going on, and this is something that should have been dealt with.
Well, dealing with the Flint water crisis was one of the biggest issues during your term as mayor. Looking back, what were some of the major breakthroughs for you when it came to planning out that recovery process?
You know, one was saying there would be a recovery process because we didn't want to stay in crisis mode forever, even though we are still in crisis. But it was important to start getting new pipes in. We needed to see new pipes. We needed to try to begin to trust the water, getting resources into the residents, things that we deserved as a result of what happened. And so that was the focus. It was, how do we get access to the resources that people deserve? And how do we get them the information, the supports, the knowledge that they need to get through what we're still dealing with today, the Flint water crisis?
Who were some of the key figures and organizations that helped you during that time?
Wow, there were so many organizations that stepped up because I'd have to say the U.S. Conference of Mayors, African American Mayors Association, the Flint, the state, the Flint State and National NAACP, the Urban League. Philanthropy stepped up in a big way. Philanthropy really came in. They started helping us build capacity. So, regular people came. They sent bottles of water. So people were coming from all over. And, you know, it was interesting because some things came and we didn't even know where they came from because so many people, you know, connected with Flint and wanted to be part of helping Flint. I'm still meeting people now that have said, we sent water to you all, we sent toiletry items to you all, and still thanking people for what they did and what they continue to do.
Well, thank you for those messages of hope. I'm sure a lot of people need to hear that right now. We're running out of time, but Mrs. Weaver, thank you so much for being here. And to hear from more local leaders in Flint this morning, we'll have more stories on our website at WNEM.com, and make sure to download our TV5 mobile app as well. Live in Flint, Lauren Piesco for TV5.
So yeah, this was Karen Weaver, was the previous mayor. She actually, this is what I've heard about her. She actually was doing a good job of replacing the pipes in her tenure. This other video I want to show you of Barack Obama. Okay, so 2 years after the water crisis happened, Barack Obama decided to say, he decided to come to Flint and say, can I get some water? Can I get some water? And he drank some water. But Barack, we probably know that was some bottled water that you drunk. We know it wasn't no Flint water.
We invest. Can I get some water? Come on up here. Give me some water. I want a glass of water. I want a glass of water. Sit down. Where do we go from here? Well, I'm still waiting for my water. Somebody obviously didn't hear me. Hold on a second. Now, the reason I know I'm okay is because I already had some Flint water. There we go. Thank you. I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt. Now, I'm going to talk about this. Everybody settle down. This is a feisty crowd.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel.
This is my face, really. Like I said, we know Barack didn't drink no Flint water. Why would you? Why would you drink some water that you know that they probably have not replaced the pipes? They're not filtering them the water correctly, or they are using a contaminated river where they shouldn't be used to source their water from. Okay, so I think it's a big political stunt. Lexi, you mentioned in the chat, the least they could do is pay for each home for new pipes. You're absolutely right. That's hey, let's replace the pipes in the house. So this is what we're going to be talking about for quite some time. I'm just going to start talking about it until somebody else start talking about it. Well, Flint, you know, we've been covering Dalton. So when I was on this podcast earlier, we was comparing the city of Dalton or village of Dalton, comparing it to Flint city council compared to Dalton city council. Flint got them beat hands down. I don't know if you guys remember Eric Mays. He passed away a couple of months ago, or about a month ago. And he's been very vocal against the city council because he's been trying to hold them accountable. But he ended up passing away. And while he was on suspension, they suspended him from city council. I don't know what he did, but they suspended him. Anyway, they had this general fund. The general fund is for stuff like that. Water pipe, repair of the homes, roofing, piping, stuff like that you need to repair your homes. Okay, the city council decided, oh, we don't need money in the general fund, or I forget what they call it. But they changed the money for house repairs and all that stuff that's dedicated to that. They changed it and switched it over to this general fund. And the general fund is like a slush fund where the administration could spend, the mayor. And I have some receipts where the city council, I guess they all have nonprofits where they funneled all this I think it was $40 million. They funneled all this $40 million and put it into their own piggy bank, their nonprofit organizations. Some of them get received, and these are people that's sitting on city council. Some of these the city council members received $300,000 for their nonprofit. It's really unreal. So you think they would be, hey, we do have $40 million. This, start placing the pipes, since the city is not going to replace the pipes, or whatever that federal dollars was allocated to is for the city infrastructure. Okay, we could use that federal dollars for that. Okay, we do have money in this other fund. We could actually start giving the residents money so we could replace their piping in their homes. But no, they don't want to do that. They want to spend their money on their little charities and not actually do anything. So their city is pretty corrupt too. Corruption through and through. So the $650 billion lawsuit that was settled. No one in Flint or Michigan was held responsible, not criminally. No one was held responsible for their criminal activity. We saw that Dana Nessel, she decided not to pursue any charges. Dozens This is sad, people, because you had 100,000 people affected by the crisis. And it says dozens marched to Flint City Hall as the water crisis turns 10-year-old. Turns 10-year-old. Clean water is what we demand. That's what they're saying. But reason why I want to point this out is because you only have just a few. The residents of Flint, they're probably exhausted. I know they think like, damn, nobody in the United States of America actually cares what we're going through. It's been 10 years and no one have received any payment for their water or anything, for their medical bills or nothing. 10 years. Can you just imagine that? I have cancer, and I cancer from the federal government. The federal government gave me cancer, and I'm not being compensated for any of that, and I might die. It's disgusting. Okay, so 12 people, or they said a few dozen, so we could say 36, maybe 50. I think they said it was about 50 people that turned out, chanting, "Clean water is what we demand. Water is the right. No justice, no peace." Dozens of people marched to Flint City Hall on Thursday to demand justice and accountability as the Flint water crisis turns 10 years old. This march is not just remembering about the past, it's about shaping our future, said Claire McClinton of Flint. We must stand together to ensure that no community ever suffers from the same fate as Flint. Residents, activists, and researchers have described the Flint water crisis as one of the most egregious cases of environmental racism that state and country have ever faced. It's disgusting. When I saw the message from the lady that sent me this information, I live in Michigan, and I had no clue that this was still going on. And I remember when they were talking about, oh, Governor Rick Snyder might be going to jail because he tried to cover up this water crisis. I remember that. And I thought that was done and over with. I knew they didn't charge him with anything, but I knew they were in the talks of even charging Governor Rick Snyder with manslaughter. And the other guy that was in next command, I think he was over the water company. I remember that very vividly. Then all of a sudden, the whole story disappeared. Nobody talked about it anymore. And then now, 10 years later, no one is being held responsible. It says in 2011, former Governor Rick Snyder, had appointed an emergency manager to oversee Flint, which was facing a financial crisis. Okay. Flint was facing a financial crisis, and Flint, the financial manager, I believe he was trying to save some money. So that's why they switched to the river. It says on April the 25th of 2014, then Flint Mayor Dane Walling and other officials praised the switch of the Detroit water system to Flint River, part of cost-cutting move that was estimated to save the cash-strapped city about $5 million in less than 2 years. There are EPA regulations that you need to abide by. So how did Governor Rick Snyder and the emergency manager say, oh, it is okay to make that switch. I'm sure MDEQ, which is Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, which is EPA, Michigan's EPA. I'm pretty sure they had a system of requirements before they said, okay, you are allowed to switch from Detroit water service to Flint River. Did Rick Snyder say, "Oh, since I'm the governor, you don't need to make that call. Oh, just switch it. You don't need it. We saving $5 million. Just switch it." So it says cost cutting move that was estimated to save cash-strapped city about $5 million in less than 2 years. However, officials from the former Department of Environmental Quality, what did I just say? MDEQ, failed to follow federal regulations put in place by the Environmental Protection Agency. So the MDEQ is in bed with Rick Snyder. And required corrosion control chemicals in the water. That water then passed through aging pipes and lead service lines, causing them to leak lead into the city's drinking water supply. So apparently, 2011, when they made the switch, it started to corrode the pipes. It probably didn't take that much time, maybe a year time, I'm not for sure, but they had corrosion in the pipes. They didn't treat the water, and so therefore it leaked into the pipes. So we know that the water was bad prior to 2014 till when the public was revealed of this bad or contaminated water. The water then passed through the aging pipes and lead service lines, causing them to leak lead into the city's drinking water supply. The ensuing water crisis left at least 12 people dead and thousands of people, including children, with lead contaminated drinking water, and was also tied to an outbreak of pneumonia caused or known as Legionnaire disease in 2014 and 2015. It says the study in 2016 by the pediatrician Mona Atisha found that the elevated blood levels doubled after the water switched, affecting 4.9% of the children. Some neighborhoods saw an increase as high of 6.6, according to Atisha's research. One thing I want to point out, one of the guys that I was talking to in Flint, I'm going to have him on my show next week. He's a basketball coach. He coaches AAU basketball, and just like the local league, like the community league. And he said, like, some of the players, he noticed that they had behavior problems and brain problems. Like one of the kids he mentioned that end up doing some type of crazy stuff, and they tested his lead level, and his lead levels were through the roof. It affected his whole brain. He's doing crazy stuff. And I guess he's did some type of criminal crime and was a good kid prior to that. And then this other kid, he said, that's good kid. I think he said he was like 16 or 17 at the time. And just randomly, they were giving a talk to the kids on the basketball team. He just get up through the talk, midway through the talk, and just started bouncing the ball like something's wrong with him. So it's affected a lot of kids and their behaviors in their brain, And it says in 2016, The then President Barack Obama administrator declared a federal emergency in Flint and freed up millions of water infrastructure aid. Obama visited in 2016 and drank a glass of water. We know that was a political stunt. I want all you to know that I'm confident that Flint will come back. Obama said at time, I will not rest, and I'm going to make sure that the leaders at every level of the government do not rest until every drop of water that flows to your home is safe to drink and safe to cook with and safe to bathe in. So, that didn't come to pass. And because that part of the basic responsibilities of the government in the United States of America. Well, you didn't do that, Barack, I don't know who you had on your team, but they didn't see that through. Flint has been in compliance with the Safe Drinking Water Act for 7.5 years. The Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes Energy announced in December that city water system has been tested below action levels of both lead and copper since 2016 over 15 consecutive periods. However, many of those gathered on Thursday said they're still waiting for justice, which has not come from the court system. Snyder, a Republican who left in 2019, was charged with 2 misdemeanor counts of willful neglect of duty in 2021, and which he pled not guilty. But in 2022, a Genesee County judge dismissed 2 criminal charges against the former Michigan Governor Rick Snyder. Why did they have it in Genesee County? That doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't they have it? Why wouldn't the prosecutor move this? But they had it in Genesee County. And reason why I'm saying that, Genesee County is in Flint. That's where Flint is located in. And you probably know all these people. Rick Snyder probably paid these people off, for all we know. In Flint, water crisis saying that the charges was not properly brought. Okay, so, and then, like I said, Dana Nessel, she fired all the team that was savvy and had the experience. Let me show you a picture of Dana Nessel. She had she fired the team. They had the experience. But and hired somebody because I guess cost savings. I'm not for sure. One of the things that she talking about, Environmental Protection Division. Her Environmental Protection Division is actively fighting to ensure clean air, water, and energy in Michigan residents, so our most valuable assets are preserved for generation. That's what you're running on, or that's what your I guess things that you fight for, but you're not doing that. And what's PFAS contamination or drinking water? Polyfluoroalkyl substances. So and just, I don't know if it makes any difference. Dana Nessel, she's a lesbian. Dana Nessel is a lesbian. But the guy that was over the prosecuting team, okay, This is the guy that was appointed by the prior prosecutor. His name is Bill Schuette. Bill Schuette hired some guy that Dana Nessel knew. And I guess Dana Nessel, that's why she fired him when she got in office, because she didn't like him. Or they didn't like each other. Not for sure. They were not friends, so she fired them. And reason why I want to say Dana Nessel, she's a lesbian. She probably has a problem with men. I'm not for sure. You know, sometimes I never met a nice lesbian. Let me retract that. I've met plenty of nice lesbians. I never met a lesbian that didn't have a problem with men. That's my only personal experience with lesbians. You guys put in the chat. And no shade on lesbians. No shade. But that's my personal experience. So some of them, they have problems with men. So I think maybe that has something to do with it. I'm not for sure. Maybe she was just trying to flex her muscles. But then you botched this whole case. Now, I'm not for sure if she's bought and paid for, but Governor Whitmer, she hasn't said anything about it. No one's silent, but they're saying in the news. Let me go back to this article. Is this it? Yeah, they're saying that they tested clean. They tested clean for since 2016. 2016, 15 consecutive testing periods. They tested clean. But, you know, your city residents don't trust them. So, a mistrial was declared in August of 2022 in a federal lawsuit against two companies that consulted with the city of Flint during its water crisis: Veolia North America and Lockwood, Andrews, and Newman. This crisis did result in the largest civil settlement in Michigan history. Michigan attorney Dana Nessel announced in 2023 that the Flint water settlement, totaling about $626 million, had been formally approved by Genesee County Circuit Chief Judge David Newblatt. The state has been ordered to pay $600 million. The city of Flint will pay $20 million. The McLaren Regional Medical will pay $5 million, and $1.25 million will come from Road Professional Service. Many residents on Thursday said that the process was dragging on too slowly. When are they going to issue it out and gain Morton or Mount Morris? People have been waiting. What are they waiting on? I don't know. Nessel spokesperson Danny Wimmer told the Advance on Thursday that they continue to delay the settlement dollars reaching claimants is understandably frustration. Of course it is. I mean, hello, by the time you give me my money, I'm going to be dead. And another thing, these lawyers are going to these residents and say, oh, fill out this paperwork, or the paperwork that you put in for this settlement. Oh, you don't qualify. What do you mean I don't qualify? I have X, Y, and Z ailments, and now you're saying I don't qualify. And I've been drinking all this contaminated water. To me, it's just ridiculous. So, of course, they're frustrated. We are hopeful that the claims review process is soon finalized so the compensation will reach the claimants in Flint as soon as possible. Though that the state is not involved in making any payments under the settlement agreement, it is not directly involved in the claims review process. We look forward to the settlement being fully implemented. Wimmer referred to advance to court appointed special master Deborah Greenspan, who is overseeing the claims process. Greenspan did not respond to requests for comment because Greenspan knows she's wrong. What the hell are you taking so long for? Because you're trying to disqualify all the residents that you could, so maybe you could pocket the money. I'm not for sure what's going on. In the richest county or country in the world, access to clean drinking water should be a right and not a privilege. Yet access to clean water has been a decade-long struggle for Flint families. That's Representative Dan Kildee from Flint, who point out he support the bipartisan 170 million aid package for Flint. Flint is resilient, but there is more work to be done to deliver justice to the families. Justice will come in many forms, including holding those who poison our water accountable, giving residents relief from high water bills, connecting families with healthcare services, and investing in our public schools. Flint, I could say Flint is, went through a lot. Okay. GM left, or I believe that was Ford. Ford left. So you had one large company that actually brought a lot of economy to your city. They're gone. So now, and then GM, I think GM is still there. I need to look it up, but I think they might be gone. But anywho, so you got this dying city, and they're not fixing anything. Maybe they're not. It's questionable if how many houses that they fixed, or what blocks did they fix for this infrastructure. So you have this problem, and now you got residents that they're kind of stuck because they probably don't have enough money to move. Maybe I would say if I was a resident of Flint, I would move because I can't risk my life on this government that don't really give a damn about me. I would pick up and move somewhere, and just try my luck there. But what I was getting at is Flint used to have, they were like really good. They were like one of those cities that you go to and get like pretty good talented sports kids that's playing basketball or whatever. Really, really good town to get those type of kids from that particular town. Now they only got one high school. One high school in the city of Flint. And I'm saying public high school. Everything else is chartered. They have these charter schools. So, and is something sketchy with the charter schools, because I don't know who owns these charter schools. Like who's going to these charter schools. So what I've been researching, and I'm thinking that some of the city council is tied into the charter schools, and the current mayor, his name is Neely. So what are they doing in Flint? Is really, really sketchy. He noted that his support for first filter legislation, universal lead testing, and the RX Kids program, under which every pregnant person in Flint received one-time payment of $1,500, followed by $500 per month for the first year of the child's life. What is that going to do? I'm not for sure. Maybe they're going to test it. I don't know what that is about. So filter first legislation. you be better off. What's that? $6,000. You'll be better off in just replacing the pipes in that person's home or adding a filtration system. I'm not for sure. Maybe they just want to test them. Maybe that's just for testing. But what is a cash payments going to do? The guy that I was talking to today that lives in Flint, he said he knows a few women that's suing the city because they had miscarriages. You got all this stuff going on because of the damn water. That doesn't make any sense. In doing this, I hope we can continue to pave the way to more inclusive and equitable society, recognizing that the environmental injustice is pressing issues that concern all of us. There they go with the equitable, inclusive. Just do the damn right thing. Why you got to use those words? Just do the right thing. Anyway, that's Flint, okay? Flint water crisis. There's nothing more I can say about that. Don't drink the water. Don't drink the water. So we'll talk about more Flint, and we're going to get into the city council as I, do more research and the stuff that's coming in. But I just wanted to give you guys the groundwork of, the water crisis and where's, the history of it. But I think it's sad. It's sad that these people have not seen justice and nobody's talking about it. You got 100,000 people in the city that live there. Nobody's saying anything about it. They're like, oh, well, it takes time. Like, how much time you going to take? These people, you have people that actually lost their lives and nobody's saying anything about it. Anyway, you guys, that's it for our live stream. Make sure you tune in on Monday. We'll be talking about something. And I might go live tomorrow just to chit chat with you. So just keep your ears to the ground. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. It all depends on what's going on. Okay. So I appreciate every single last one of you. Thank you for tuning in. I am sending all my good to you. I will talk to you soon.